Okay, so a couple of initial
let's
house cleaning matters.
Well,
rules.
let's set up the house rules that we're playing with in this game. So it's a 2-on-2 game, a 1-on-1 game.
That's right.
We're not going to start over again, though, so I'm just going to live with that mistake.
Yes. Okay. Essentially, here's the deal. House rules. You conquer one country minimum, you get one card. You can turn in cards, 3 of a kind or 3 of each different kind.
Yeah. At the beginning of the game, we dealt out cards to see who got the initial countries. That's what we're doing right now.
And then following
after that, we place one per person in succession
until we
started with 40 armies.
Correct. Until we've both depleted our armies, and then we begin the game. Basic rule: we throw the dice in the top of a box top. If the dice goes outside
this
the
is
box,
our specific rule that our friends play with.
Mm-hmm. If the dice exits the box and does not land in the box, that is a forfeited
Yeah, it's
roll.
basically a 0.
It's 0.
So we're setting up here. Very interesting setup, very divided. Like every continent is basically cut in half.
Yeah, normally when we play, you pretty much know where your main base, your
you
main
can see that
fortifications
initially.
are going to be.
Yeah.
This was not one of those games.
Yeah. Very interesting start. And I'm going to get a little into it right now because we just played it, so it's fresh in my mind. But you had some very bad rolls the first couple of turns.
Yes, and I should say I am red and you are yellow.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm
Steven.
Steven.
I'm Brian. I'm yellow.
I'm Steven. I'm red.
Yeah. So here we are set up. I think we're all...
I think we're beginning to play at this point. You can see Brian's got this awesome connection between Brazil and North Africa.
Yeah.
Starting out.
So obviously my beginning strategy was take over Africa and South America for those continent bonuses.
No, my initial strategy was actually to take Australia. I was lucky to get the 2
Everybody
mainlands.
does that at first.
And Brian, you kind of put a stint in it.
At the start.
At the start, you put a stint in it because
at
you
the
have
end of
some
placing
there.
my units, I put them there just to kind of
bulwark.
Yeah, just kind of like I had some units left over. I had my units where I wanted them to be, and I was like, I knew you were going for that, so I was not going to make it easy for you.
And you can see here I'm beginning to chip away at.
Yeah, and you had some, like I said, you had some
yeah.
really good rolls. I don't think you lost a man. Did you lose anybody your first turn?
I did. I lost multiple men because I was planning to take all of Australia in the first turn. That did not happen.
Oh, okay, that's right. Yeah.
Did not happen. Now, I was lucky. I got a lot of, you can see there, Europe and Asia at the start of the game. It was just never in play at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, I thought you were going to be way more conservative your first few turns, and I was not expecting you to go as far as you did. But yeah, okay, so I just took over South America.
Yeah.
In my first turn. That was my first turn, right? And I'm
it
going
was
for
close
Africa.
to it, yes.
Yeah, going for Africa. Didn't quite get it this turn, but I believe I got it the next turn. We'll see.
Well, I mean, really, the whole start of the game really did center out of Africa, Southern Europe, Middle East.
I mean, you got to understand, too, like, me and Steven are experienced players, so, like, it seems like we're playing kind of conservative, but it's just because at this point, like, I knew that you knew the next move I was going to make, so I'm trying to, like, play defensively. Yeah, defensively, keep a lot of guys on your borders. Oh, and we're also playing with a lot of people play this differently, but we're playing with if you roll 3 dice, you move 3 guys, and you can't reinforce troops until the end of your turn.
Correct.
So that's why you don't just move massive armies across the map initially.
Right, and even when you reinforce what we call moving troops at the end of your turn, you can move as many units from one country to an adjacent country as you want, but you can only move that mass of troops to that adjacent country, and then your troop movement, your reinforcement stops.
Yeah. Yeah, so at this point,
you've really amassed your army.
I'm already dominating
in North Africa.
Yeah.
You've got Central Africa, South Africa, Eastern Africa.
And I'm just chipping away. This is still when you were getting bad rolls, man.
I was getting
really bad rolls.
Real bad rolls.
Look at that. My troop reinforcement right there. I was just like,
that hurt.
I've got the backup. I had Africa. You couldn't come in the back ways. And I had it in Southern Europe. I still had that. So I was like,
Small, annoying gameplay tactic here. You might see my hand counting many pieces. You should know that we are consuming copious amounts of rum as we play. So it really does require us a lot of times to physically count out the countries that we have because, of course, as we all know, you divide the countries you control by 3. And that tells you how many armies you have at a minimum of 3 the next turn.
Right. And at this point, you can see you're reaching for the drink right there. At this point, it looks like I've already won the game. Honestly, even knowing what's going to happen,
it was really bad
because you don't have a single big group of people.
No, and here you're taking out the rest of Africa. So at the end of this turn, you're going to have South America and all of Africa,
and you don't have a good way to get into them, especially with the 3 troop movement rule.
I don't. You have Western
2 turns away.
Yeah, you can see you have Western Europe, you have Southern Europe, you've incurred into my Asiatic territory in Middle East. No, I do have Australia, but compared to the 5 country bonus you're going to get, my 2 was nothing.
That's one of the strategies I usually go with. I feel like Australia, in the first 5 turns that matters, that extra 2, but after that, so if you can't obviously get Australia in the first 2 turns, don't go for it.
No.
That's what I say. I mean, different people feel differently, but
you can see me here. I'm trying to reinforce there in Europe to move southward to stop your advance there. Now, really, though, I've got nothing in Asia. If you had moved from the Middle East here, I would have had nothing.
Yeah, we're both ignoring Asia and I feel like that's a strategy that player that at the next level could have realized because we're pretty high up. We've played a lot of games of Risk, generally we ignore Asia because that's the winning move at the end when
everyone knows
Asia.
But honestly, don't start a ground war in Asia. It didn't work for the Nazis. It's not going to work for us.
But now looking back at this, if either one of us would have made a play for Asia at this point early on, it probably would have made a big difference. Honestly, right now, I should have gone to Asia. I end up going to North America. But if I would have went for Asia, that would have completely changed the game.
And see, that's what confused me because you really should have gone there for Afghanistan. And you didn't.
At this point, I saw. At this point, I thought I had won. Honestly, in the first 3 turns, I was like, "You don't have a single big army left on the board. The most you have is 5."
It's true.
And you were 2 turns away from any one of my continent bonuses right there. So I was I was going in a different direction. I was like, North America is generally my next move, so that's what I was going for.
I mean, you'll see later, North America stayed in play for a long time until right at the end.
Yeah, it really did.
It really did. You can see I've started amassing armies in Europe now, and that's really where the tide is going to turn.
You just took
took the Middle East, took out India again.
But you have Europe, but you have no way. You have no way to defend Europe at this point. You knew I was going to take it the next turn.
No, it's hard to tell. I've got 1 unit there on Western Europe, and you have this
massive
army in North Africa.
Yeah. I think that's
and you can see I've slowly chipped away a little bit at your Asia.
That's where I make my move for North America.
Oh yeah,
and I've almost got it already. Yeah. I mean,
but I want to take the time to point out something. Look at your South America.
You're
had
far
no
away from it.
Exactly.
You're 2 or 3 turns away from it. That's why I didn't leave anybody
to defend
there.
it. You really didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, but as we'll see, that will be kind of one of my downfalls. Whoever won.
And you can see here, you're keeping me from getting the European bonus with Iceland.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And those 2 guys you got.
Even right now, it still looks like I'm dominating you.
It does. You've still got the 2 guys in Irkutsk and Yakutsk. And you see here, I'm starting to make a play for it by putting more pieces in Kamchatka.
And you kept getting, excuse me, you kept, I love having Africa as an early game continent bonus, but it's tough because you have 4 entry points. And you kept, just like you just did, you kept going into East Africa, and then to your credit, you would always go one further. You wouldn't just stop there.
Right, because what I was trying to avoid
the whole
was
game you did that.
taking back the country that I took simply to keep you from getting the continent bonus,
right.
And then pushing back
into the Middle East.
If you were going to have to reclaim that country bonus, you were going to do it in multiple rolls.
Right, and again, that's another variation. I mean, this is the technical rule that you can only move as many men as dice you roll, but a lot of people play it differently. Had I been able to, have an army of 12 people take over a country and move 11 of those, I would have played differently. And you probably would have as well. You probably wouldn't have gone 2 countries in, but that's a very good strategy for that type of game.
Well, I mean, if we were to reverse it, if I were yellow here, I would have been much more aggressive about pushing into Western Europe.
Yeah.
Moving the troops from Western Europe to Great Britain.
Now. Yeah.
To keep that boundary.
Yeah. Look at this. I still could have won it at this point, man.
Right.
And we talked about this before we started recording. Like, I focused too much on Africa. Looking back now, I would have just said, screw Africa, it's gone.
Because at this point,
I'm going to focus on North America and pushing into
country
Asia.
bonuses.
Yeah.
At this point, and you're still keeping me from getting Asia. There's that, you're one little guy.
And I should have... right at this point, I should have pushed into Europe right at this point.
And so you can
made a concerted effort
again,
for it.
I'm back in Africa, getting all the way down to South Africa this time. Keep you from getting at least one of those continent bonuses.
And I cared too much about Africa.
That's your mistake.
Yeah. The whole game, that was my mistake. I needed it for the first few turns. After that, I should have just let you have it. I should have pretended like I was still caring about it and just let you waste... Because you can see we've turned in a couple rounds of cards at this point.
Okay, I want to point out this is nearing the beginning of the end. You can see I've reinforced Kamchatka with quite a lot.
Now
I moved
North
it into
America.
Alaska, so there's your country bonuses gone there. I've interrupted your country bonus in South America, interrupted your country bonus in Africa.
Yeah.
I have a massive troop deployment here.
Honestly,
and this is the turn of the tide.
In that 2 turns, you won the game. That's what just happened.
And I'm still
you're getting your
not
rolls
taking
at this
Asia.
point too. You're getting your rolls at this point too. The first few turns, you were getting really bad rolls. Oh wow, we're about to just see me completely collapse, and we just saw our second drink get made because I knew it was
I'm
the
pretty sure
of the
it's
end.
the third.
Okay, either way,
and again,
we both knew at this point the game was over, and you made me play it out. I think actually this is the point where I said, "Can we call it?"
This is a little bit earlier because you still have you still have a lot of troops there in Africa.
Okay.
I have maybe 4 or 5.
I would like to point
East.
out, you see where it's going with this, but at some point I said, "Okay, is the game over?" And you made me play it out.
I would not
to the last roll
because I have been on the receiving ends of games that would not be called.
So we can point out this is, and we talked about this while we were playing the game. Like a 2-person game of Risk is very different than a 3-person game.
It
of Risk.
is.
It takes out all the diplomacy, all the anything like that, and it's just straight up strategy. It's just like board strategy, moving troop strategy.
There is a lot of wuzzywug going on. What you see is what you get.
Yep.
A lot of times we'll play pretty dirty. If somebody goes to the bathroom, that's the time you start making plans while they're out of the room. That doesn't happen here.
Oh yeah, this is really.
And again, you still.
Yeah. I didn't realize it collapsed that quickly.
I just took Asia.
Yeah,
finally,
and now you got a stronghold in
and
Alaska,
I have a stronghold in Alaska.
You've taken South America at this point. It's like there's no way for me to get to Asia at this point. Well, we got the Africa, Middle East border.
Well,
but that's
you start moving your units now into North America, and that's where your end game is going to be. But at this moment, you still have Africa.
Let me go. Let me tell you what was going through my mind. At this point, I realized, screw Africa. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to focus on North America. Had I done that 2 or 3 turns earlier, it probably would have turned out okay. But it was just too late to do it at this point. It really was.
I mean, Kamchatka was open. The whole game, pretty much 1 to 2 units being there up until earlier than this moment, that you could have incurred into Asia. It never happened.
Yeah.
Why?
Because, like I said, I was, I know how to play, so I'm not going to go for Asia until... What I didn't realize is 2-person games are quick. You got to make those moves in the first 5 turns. Or they're not going to get made. And
to your credit, I had the same idea about Asia.
Yeah.
It wasn't until this turn that I had Asia, and now you can see Europe has actually just fallen as well.
Yeah, and
so with Europe, Asia, and Australia, you also had several rounds you didn't get the cards you needed to turn in.
I didn't get. I think the whole game I only turned in one set of cards.
You turned in
3, I believe.
I turned in.
Yeah, there were 4 turned in total.
Right,
and I turned in 1.
You can see them there to the left of the board.
I went down with 5 cards in my hand. Yeah, you were getting the cards. Yeah, so here is. I believe at this point I've already asked you to call the game.
You have, you have. By the time
we just kept going,
I have a triple threat in North America from Central America, Greenland, and Alaska. South America is firmly in my control. I was still scared about Africa because at this point I didn't know whether or not you were going to turn in cards.
I had cards, I believe, at maybe 5 cards in my hand at this point, or at 4 probably.
4,
I die the next turn. So yeah, I could have made a final last stand. I didn't get it. Oh well, something's going on. I think there
it is. Yeah. So you can see there's the box top. Madagascar and Central Africa making a last strong showing for you. Your presence outside the Western Hemisphere.
I believe you're. Yeah. So you didn't turn in cards this turn. You turned in cards the next turn, though, and that was the final blow, I believe.
Right. I got over 20 units.
Yeah.
At that point, my Australia bonus, Asia bonus, Europe bonus.
20 units is a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh, I thought. Yeah. There goes. Yeah. Man. This game was so obviously done at this point, and you kept making me play.
And it's so weird. I mean, looking at it, you may not be able to tell, but halfway through this game, I was certain I was facing defeat.
Yeah,
no question.
Well, I wonder.
I would have put money on it.
We'll have to go back and watch this again slower. I don't think this game lasted more than 10 turns. This was really a pretty quick game.
It was a very quick game. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was my last ditch. I was like, okay, I'm going to try to take over Asia. I knew I'd lost, but I was like,
it didn't work.
Extend it one more turn.
I think at this point I had 11 units in Kamchatka versus 9 in your Alaska, and I thought about attacking, and I decided against it because I wanted the defensive favor.
And you didn't know if I had cards at that point.
And I didn't know if you were going to get cards.
So at this point, I believe we called it. This is where you turn in your cards, and you get like 5
you can see
country
me counting. I want every
4 continent bonuses.
Freaking unit I can get.
And so at this point, this is when we coined the term the Alberta defense, because that was the only country that took 2 moves to get to.
Correct.
The rest of them you could just directly attack. So that was my one last hope, was Alberta.
And here I am placing my final units. You can see there I'm placing in Greenland and Kamchatka, in Central America,
Africa. I put up a pretty good fight in Africa, as we're about to see.
Your African soldiers were quite capable in fending me off for most
of
that game.
Those are my original troops. They were hardened veterans.
And here's their ultimate death.
And
there it is.
Die. That's it.
So at this point, I control most of the known world.
There you're going into North America. I have 2 countries left at this point. And you decided to let Alberta hang there after I coined the term the Alberta defense. You were going to go into it initially, and then you're just like, no. And game
another
over.
thing we should say too is that if you notice some of my players are a little bit of a different shade than red, it's because mercenaries.
I feel like people have that term worldwide, like in Risk players, like they have the term mercenaries. You run out of your
own color. You have to get others. Make it. Call it mercenaries. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Love you.
Yeah, good game. Kind of.